Good afternoon and welcome to Tortilla Talk. I'm your host Dylan, and with me today is Troy and Derek. Troy, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing awesome. Had a great Valentine's Day, first one with my daughter, so it couldn't be better.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. That's awesome to hear. Derek, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on. Checking in from warm and sunny 40-degree Madison, Wisconsin. So been out enjoying the nice weather while we still got it. Still have a break in snow.
Sorry, I must have misheard you because I thought you said nice and warm, and then I heard 40 degrees. So I don't know if you're crazy or what, but that's not what we deal with down here in Texas, Derek.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better than the negative 20 it was a couple weeks ago.
There you go. Always look on the positive side. I bet you're missing Texas just a little bit, aren't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Starting to get a little homesick.
Yeah, I get you. But to start, guys, we have a lot going on this week, and none more bigger than the Iowa State game. We got our Red Raiders going to Ames, Iowa to play the Cyclones. They've had a pretty good year so far, so this could be a tough game. And speaking of tough game, this could be a tough game for us at TechNTortillas. If you follow us on X, you might have seen that we got in over our head a little bit. We announced that we will be eating a ghost pepper on our post-game recap. Guys,
Dylan, I think you said we. Is there an invisible man on your shoulder?
well, hey, come on. I mean, it's one for all now. I thought that, we'd all be brothers in arms here. If one suffers, we all suffer. But I could see the hesitation and, maybe leave your man behind in this situation. I don't know, guys. I think we might have jumped the gun here a little bit, especially with such a tough game and the circumstances going on. Derek, I'm going to start with you. Little crazy of us to do this when Tech has to go into such a tough environment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I hate to break it to you guys. This is probably the wrong week to do the pepper challenge. So just starting off, going into Hilton Coliseum, it's never an easy place to play. It's going to be rocking even for an 11 o'clock game. Not to mention, Iowa State is just a really good, solid team that's hot right now. They're a long, athletic team, but it's not really the size that's going to kill you. It's their just aggressiveness and intensity that they always play with.
Yeah, you're right, Derek. I mean, especially if we're as hindered as we might be with the Washington news. I know he's a game time decision, but Troy, we really need him, don't we?
Yeah, I think we do. Anytime that you don't have one of your top players, it makes you really nervous. And Derek touched on it, right? Going into a good top of the conference team's home stadium is never a good feeling. We saw what happened the last time, right? And if you double down with that and take Washington out of the lineup, we saw what happened against Baylor when we didn't have our size. And so that's definitely a scary thing because we are, a decently undersized team. We would probably need an act of God at that point. I don't know if Williams is going to be able to walk on water again, Gosh, 12 for 12, what a ball player. Favorite guy on the team, by the way. Phenomenal. But that being said, tough place to play. Maybe have a couple of things going against us. Well-coached team, though. So, I like our chance to have a puncher shot in it. I think we stay in a lot of the games. So as long as we can stay in it, anything can happen with how well we can shoot the ball.
Yeah, I want to kind of touch at the end, I guess in the middle there, you talked about well-coached team. I mean, guys, this could be your battle for Coach of the Year in the Big 12 right here. This matchup between TJ Otzelberger and Grant McCasland. You're having two guys who have really kind of, and don't get me wrong, there's talent on the teams, but they've really, really outperformed what maybe expectations were going into the season. This game has a lot of meaning for the Big 12 title where maybe at the time you didn't think that these teams would be playing in such a massive game for it, right? But other things you were talking about there too, Troy, whether it's an act of God, players playing their best games of the season, we're definitely going to need something to overcome this tough Iowa State team, especially with everything we've seen in the Big 12 this year playing on the road. Road games are hard, aren't they, guys? It is hard in the Big 12 to win on the road, especially when you're playing one of the top teams in the conference. So I don't know. Maybe he can, instead of walk on water, Williams will turn water into wine this time. I don't know what other miracle he can pull, but maybe he'll pull something out, a rabbit out of the hat, Troy. I don't know, but we're gonna need to see something. Yeah, we're gonna need to see something to have this team compete and get a huge Big 12 road win. But we've talked about it on this podcast before. Maybe the Big 12 refs will mess up in our favor this time. Who knows, guys? As you can tell, I'm kind of going off on different unlikely scenarios because I really don't want to eat a pepper on
Yeah,
a crap.
you're really trying to talk your way out of this one.
I really need some faith, guys, because whether
Just
it's me
cancel the game.
we need a win. So, Texas Tech, please, if I've ever need you to win one before, win this one. Win this for the boys. Win this for TechNTortillas. Win this for our health and safety, please. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, guys, before I keep thinking about this and cry a little bit. The college football playoff. So, hey, it's not football season, but look, they're still making the news because football is king in America. The college football playoff committee is meeting in the coming days to discuss the format of the Big 12 playoff, or Big 12 playoff. I wish it was the Big 12 playoff, guys, but the college football playoff. Before we talk about what that might look like, kind of want to see what you guys think. Troy, I'll start with you. What would your dream format for the 12-team playoff be?
Yeah, I think it's that, everybody gets a bid relative to the big conferences. Eventually you hope that the Pac-12 can reform and put together, 12, 10-team conference, whatever that looks like, and eventually get a bid too. I think the situation we're in right now, it's probably the 4 that get a bid. I know there's that 5-7 conversation, the 6-6 conversation. I think for me, it's probably that 6-6 conversation. And I know it's not the popular opinion, but I think it's the 4 main conferences and then the Big Ten and SEC get an additional bid.
Okay. Derek, what about you? What do you think? What would your dream scenario be for the format?
Yes, my dream scenario is a little bit different. I want to see a bigger, expanded playoff where something like along the lines of the FCS, where you have like 24 teams, 25 teams, home games. That would be amazing. Can you imagine Lubbock on a Saturday for a playoff game at home? Just be absolutely insane.
Man, Derek, that's insanity. 24 teams. You'll get some blowouts there, but the point you touched on with playing home games in a playoff scenario, I think that would be topic of conversation for them. But gosh, the atmospheres you'll get at these games. Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. You're rewarding teams for what they do in the regular season. Give them a home game for a playoff game. There's no better way to reward them. But
yeah, think about the engagement across all college football too.
Dude, I mean, that's what separates college football is the fact that like the atmosphere is crazy. I mean, you go to a game and you see jump around where you are, Derek, in Wisconsin. I mean, you see a bunch of different, traditions, and that's what sets it apart. You get that in the playoffs in a game that literally means everything. Oh yeah, that will only do good for everyone in college football.
Okay. But also help out the smaller schools too. Like imagine if App State gets to host a playoff game.
So I'm glad you brought that up because the format Troy kind of brought up, he left the little guy out. I'm kind of curious. So I like what you said about the Big Ten and SEC getting more bids because you have to think they know their position of power. They're going to throw their weight around a little bit and try to get that. You have to make it more advantageous for you so you get more money by getting more teams into the playoff. So yes, they're smart. They'll probably try to do that. But not giving a group of 5 conference champion winner an automatic bid, maybe in my opinion, should be the best group of 5 team. You don't give all of them one, right? I mean, the best thing about college football is, even if it's so unrealistic, I do it every year. You think you can make the playoff and having that hope. I mean, you're ripping it away almost, Troy. I mean, you're fine with not having the little guy get an automatic bid?
Yeah, that's tough to say. I know. And I'm mostly being selfish. So, you'd hate to take that away. But I think at some point too, those conferences will, want what's probably theirs, and have that additional confirmation that they're definitely going to get 2 teams in. Regardless, they will anyway, right? They'll probably get 3 or 4 teams in some instances. So it's more so just making sure we protect our own. But yeah, that probably doesn't feel great. I didn't feel great about saying it.
Yeah. And imagine if they reclassify Independence as Group of 5 and Notre Dame just takes the Group of 5 spot. I guess it wouldn't be the little guy then, so wouldn't feel so bad. Who knows? But yeah, to your point though, I really do think that's the best way to keep everyone at bay, is to make sure you keep the SEC and Big Ten happy so they don't try to split away and really throw a wrench in everything that is college football right now. We'll see how it kind of goes out. Derek, I'll go back to you to kind of touch on Troy's topic. Do you think the Big Ten and SEC deserve more automatic bids than the Big 12 and ACC?
Okay, so the SEC and the Big Ten are definitely going to try to get those extra 2 teams in there. They're going to cause a ruckus and cause a bunch of uproar, but I don't think it's going to happen. I still think it's going to go to the little guy, a Group of 5 team, and I think they definitely deserve it.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it earlier, but that's kind of what makes college football special, is when the little guy, again, it might not be the most realistic thing, but they have a little chance, right? But yeah, we'll go ahead and go on to the next topic, which, again, football is king, is college football. So we have NCAA 25 getting announced. There was a tweet and a lot of, it was a little clip, but the teaser for another clip to come. But we're getting the football game in the summer of this year. Derek, I know you're a big gamer.
Yes.
How excited are you for NCAA 25?
Oh, I'm very excited. That 1.5-minute clip got me way too pumped up for what's coming this summer. I remember growing up playing those games all the time, having your dynasty, your franchise, taking the small team, trying to win a championship with them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I'm excited too, man. Troy, how you feeling about it?
Man, I'm pumped. I was had the greatest offensive teams ever assembled in these games. It was, you don't worry about too much of the defense. It was a lot like a Texas Tech game, honestly. Who's the last person to score? So I always played it right before tailgates and whatnot, and so it brings me back to my college days. For me, though, I'm most excited about the build your own NIL character mode. I'm really thinking of Buck Cavender, Oil Tycoon, and getting all these guys to come play at Tech. I'm pretty pumped up for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it there. That's kind of what I'm curious about. I was going to ask you guys about how does NIL tie in. I think that would be perfect if you create your NIL character and you're just some sleazy businessman who's making false promises to these little kids and just signing them left and right. Yeah, that would be fun. But yeah, man, there's a lot of nostalgia around the college football games. I'm hoping they stay true to what they were before. I mean, I remember growing up, we create a bunch of players and put them on a team. There's nothing I'm looking forward more than taking Eastern Michigan, to a MAC championship, becoming an offensive coordinator at a Power 5 school, and then becoming a head coach at Texas Tech. Obviously, a big fat bald guy wearing a visor. That's just the best way to go about it, in a Hawaiian shirt. They better still have those options. But
Yep.
it's just a bunch of nostalgia. It's what we grew up doing, right? We love it. Probably spend too much time on it recruiting. It's funny. I turned on the Xbox the other day, fired up the old 360 and played some college football. I think I spent like an hour and a half recruiting before I played a game. So I don't know if they're going to touch that up a little bit to make it quicker. But man, I'm excited, guys. This is definitely
Dylan, I think it's actually longer with the NIL mode. You're going to spend 2 hours before you get to that game.
Yeah. Now you have to create a separate money account away from the school and talk to these kids and buy them things. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot
to stay off the NCAA's radar.
Yeah, it's GTA meets NCAA.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely exciting. You're going to see a lot of people really, as we get closer, get hyped about this game. But we'll move on to the final topic, which surprisingly, again, who would have thought? College football. So the Big 12 football win totals were released. And we got our Red Raiders listed as 8.5 for the over-under. I'll start with you, Derek. 8.5 is high. Does that seem obtainable for this team this year?
It's definitely high. I was definitely shocked whenever that number came out at 8.5. It's definitely attainable, though. The schedule lines up pretty favorably. I think one big game that's really going to be on everyone's radar is the Washington State game in week 2. Definitely got to win that one to get the over 8.5 wins on the season.
Yeah, and that last-minute switch probably was helpful, right? Because bringing them in instead of what it was Oregon originally, right? So
yeah, it was originally Oregon.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good switch, and it's good to still have Washington State have a chance to play against the bigger teams. I'm going to call us a bigger team, but it's good to still have those games. But yeah, you look at the beginning of the season, it's manageable for sure. Arizona is one of the top teams, and you play them at the beginning, so. You're right. That Washington State will be a good test to see where we truly stand before we start to get the harder games. But I'll jump to you, Troy. What do you think about 8.5? Do you think it's obtainable?
You think about the last time we got above 8.5, 2009. So, you like to think it's attainable. It's definitely an easier schedule. They're leaving out Utah and Kansas State.
Yeah.
And so you leave those teams out of it, and they're probably going to be two of the better teams in there. And I think it's possible. It got a little bit easier to Derek's point with Washington State. You don't know what Arizona is going to bring to the table with all this stuff circulating in their program right now. And so it's just I think we can get there. We just haven't gotten there in such a long time. But I think something that will need to change is sometimes we stumble coming out of the gate under McGuire, and they really come back together towards the end of the season. And we're going to have a tougher end of the season this year. So it's really you got to win the games you're supposed to win, and you can't really fumble the bag. So you got to come out strong if you're going to win 9 games, and you can't drop against Washington State, right? You got to have it. So I think we can get there. I think it's a really high expectation, and I was a little surprised it was that high. So I think we can get there, though.
Yeah, you're right. It was surprising in the standpoint of we haven't done it since, again, 2009, like you said, right? But you look at the schedule and you do believe it is obtainable. You do avoid playing Utah and Kansas State, as you said, Troy. So, yeah, it does seem doable, but recent history since 2009 states that maybe it's a little harder than we think. But I like what you talked about there with starting off slow. It's been kind of an unfortunate thing we've been doing the last few years, right? But with how hard the season, like the end of the season is, you cannot afford to start that way. Because even the teams that, and I'm about to list like the top teams that have the highest over-under win totals for the Big 12, even the ones that aren't on that list, like Oklahoma State, like playing them at the end of the year, Gundy always has them getting so much better as the year goes on. I mean, that's tough, man. That's just a tough place to play and a tough team to play. But we'll go ahead and jump to the teams that are at the top according to the projections of the Big 12. You have Utah and Kansas State at 9.5 in a group of their own. And then you have the next group at 8.5 with Tech, Kansas, Arizona, and UCF. I'll start with you, Derek. Out of all those teams I just named, who do you like at the top of the Big 12? Kind of who do you think our biggest competition is?
Well, definitely at the top. Kansas State always seems to hang around and be there, so they'll probably be another very solid team again. For the middle of the pack, I want to say Arizona, but like you were saying, there's just so much going on with that program and just the school in general right now. There's no telling what kind of team they're going to have. I think UCF might surprise a lot of people this year. They're bringing back a lot of people. They have a solid squad, a solid coach, so we'll see what happens there. So I would go with UCF, probably be the big shocker.
Yeah, nice. What about you, Troy? Who do you think will end up at the top of this conference, other than Tech, obviously?
Yeah, other than Tech, obviously. It's hard for me to say Utah. I mean, obviously they're very defensively sound. And then I know we also brought up Kansas State. They still have a really good quarterback. anyway, and that the gentleman that will be starting next year. So I kind of want to be a little bit different than the top two teams. I'll probably say Oklahoma State. You brought up Gundy. They probably feel like this conference is probably owed to them now, and I think Gundy could probably make a statement. And selfishly, I hope that one of the last games of the season will be for the Big 12 championship, whether it's us versus OSU.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Oklahoma State feels like a team that's getting slightly disrespected here, but they do have a tough schedule. But they got a lot of returning talent as well. But Kansas State, man, they got their offense. It's totally new, switching over. Not a lot of returning production, but I don't know if that's a bad thing with them. I don't think. I mean, you look at. I've never been a Will Howard guy. Like, good for him that he went somewhere else, but I think they had a better backup there than him. And the defense, I think it's the fourth best in returning production in the country. And you know how that Kansas State defense is. So that's a team I fear greatly. Thank God we don't have to play them. But I think that they're going to be a real player in the Big 12 this year. And then obviously you have Utah, who's just always going to be good defensively. But as you said, Oklahoma State feels like they're getting disrespected. I'm sure at the end of the year, they'll end up in the discussion no matter what. But last thing in this topic, kind of moving off the Big 12, but I just wanted to bring up one win total and kind of throw it out to you guys. And, we can all maybe get a little chuckle. We had two teams leave for greener pastures in their mind, Texas and Oklahoma. Texas is obviously going to be very good next year. They're returning a lot of talent on a playoff team, so good for them. They're finally back. We've heard about it so long, so we won't hate on them right now. Please don't throw your horns down, guys. I don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to get that blurred out. But Oklahoma's the other one. Their win total is 7.5 games. So you left the Big 12 to go play with the big boys in the SEC. And now you end up winning 6 or 7 games. I mean, I think that's a little funny, right? You could have had a nice, easy road to the playoff, but you decided to, go run off. Good riddance to them, right, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Would it have been probably easier in the Big 12? And maybe it will end up working out for them. I like to think that, our teams can leave and go compete into the SEC with the best of them like A&M did, and UT probably will. And so it's tough for Oklahoma, but that's all right in my books.
Yep. Well, it's funny because we've talked about it on here before, but you got to remember a lot of the country has, I always make a joke. I say I have it, dumb brain sometimes, where I'll just see a record and go, hey, 6-6, 7-5, they're not good. Obviously, a 6-6, 7-5 in the SEC is different than, any other conference, but at the end of the day, you are what your record says, right? So you can't tell me, hey, we play the tough teams. Well,
you didn't beat them.
Well, you can't beat them. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But that's all I have today, guys. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe across all social medias. Please follow us. It's TechNTortillas. Again, TechNTortillas. Please follow us, especially on X, because you'll see more info about this pepper challenge I'm not looking forward to. Please, again, Red Raiders, do whatever you can. McCasland, I have all my faith in you. Win this game. But yeah, guys, as always, guns up, wreck 'em.